Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone. Representatives from the National Park Service are asking for the public's help this week as they seek to identify a pair of suspects who are accused of going into a restricted area and stealing historic artifacts. According to a press release distributed by the NPS this week, the incident took place back on March 23rd at Utah's Canyonlands National Park. At around 5:30 p.m. that day, an unknown man and woman were captured on video entering a closed area at Cave Spring Cowboy Camp in the Needles district of the park. Once there, they allegedly removed artifacts belonging to the park from a cabinet and, quote, handled historic harnesses in a manner that had potential to damage them. While the release doesn't mention what the pair are actually accused of taking, they reminded citizens, quote, national parks are some of the most special, treasured, and protected areas of our country. To protect their natural and cultural resources for this and future generations, all visitors to national parks are expected to follow park laws and regulations and practice leave-no-trace principles to minimize their impact on park lands. At the time of this recording, officials say that they are still investigating, but are also asking for help from the public. Anyone with information about the unknown man and woman are asked to reach out over the phone through the National Park tip line or to submit information online. A 26-year-old New York man is looking at some serious prison time this week, months after he allegedly set fire to the childhood home of a state trooper, an unhinged attack that was apparently motivated by some traffic tickets. The whole thing started sometime on the evening of December 20th, 2023, when the suspect, 26-year-old Tyler Williams, was pulled over by the unidentified state trooper while driving in Orange County. It's unclear exactly what prompted the traffic stop, though the situation ended with Williams being issued multiple tickets. Several hours later, in the early morning hours of December 21st, emergency responders were called to a nearby residence in the village of Warwick with reports of a fire. They arrived to find a house engulfed in flames. The property belonged to the father of that same state trooper who had given Williams the tickets. Thankfully, all three people inside at the time had been able to escape without injury. However, the place had sustained serious damage. It also quickly became clear that the fire had been set intentionally. 5 months and nearly 24 search warrants later, Orange County investigators were able to link the two December incidents. Specifically, they now allege that after being ticketed, Williams began looking up personal information related to the state trooper who had conducted the traffic stop. Though it appears he wasn't able to find his current address, he was able to find the location of the man's childhood home. A few hours later, he allegedly showed up there and set the house on fire. Williams was arrested on May 15th and is now facing a charge of arson in the second degree. If convicted, he could be facing between 5 and 25 years in prison. Authorities in Maricopa County, Arizona say that a 19-year-old man is facing attempted murder charges this week, following a disturbing attack on his own parents that he allegedly carried out because he was unhappy with his childhood. The situation began at 5:42 a.m. on May 13th, when police in the city of Chandler received a chilling 911 call from a woman. The woman stated that she and her husband had been shot by their teenage son inside their home near the intersection of McQueen and Ocotillo Roads. When officers arrived at the scene, they encountered the alleged shooter, 19-year-old Jeremiah Estelle Blair, who was apparently waiting for them on the driveway. By this point, he was unarmed and immediately surrendered. Emergency responders continued inside, where they found Blair's parents, both of whom were suffering from gunshot wounds. They were both taken to a local hospital for treatment, though thankfully are said to be in stable condition. Following Blair's arrest, he was reportedly quite forthcoming with investigators about what had happened, as well as the reasons behind his alleged actions. He claimed that he was, quote, upset over his upbringing, and that he was not treated as he should have been as a child. Unfortunately, reports don't delve into the specifics of why Blair felt this way, though apparently this was something the teen had been planning for quite some time. He explained that he had been intending to kill his parents for years and had been keeping a handgun concealed in his closet. Blair said that he considered a number of different murder methods before ultimately deciding the gun would be the most effective. According to police, Blair stated that he eventually decided to go through with the crime on Mother's Day, though once again changed his plan at the last second. Instead, he waited until 1 o'clock the next morning, at which point he grabbed his gun and set up a camera in the kitchen. He stayed there until his father got up for work. When the man came downstairs just after 5:30 a.m., Blair allegedly ambushed him, telling him that he, quote, knew this day was coming. He then shot him before heading upstairs and shooting his mother, who had come out of her bedroom to see what was going on. As if the situation couldn't get more twisted, Blair reportedly told police that he was sorry that his parents had lived. The 19-year-old is now facing 2 counts of attempted first-degree murder and remains in custody. Authorities in Rowan County, North Carolina say that a 48-year-old man is facing charges this week following a horrifying alleged stabbing and arson attack against his girlfriend, one that left her in critical condition. The situation began just before 1 a.m. on May 10th when the Rowan County Sheriff's Office received a 911 call about a fire and possible violent incident at a residence on Chez Charolais Road, not far from the city of Salisbury. Officers arrived to find a mobile home engulfed in flames, as well as a woman named Tamara Marie Clemens, who was seriously injured. Tamara had been stabbed and was suffering from severe burns and was quickly airlifted to a hospital. In the meantime, firefighters attempted to tackle the blaze. However, before they could do so, they were allegedly threatened by Tamara's boyfriend, 48-year-old James Joseph Gunnarsson. Gunnarsson was reportedly hiding behind the mobile home when authorities arrived and was in possession of a knife that he allegedly used to stab Tamara. Police had to use a taser on him multiple times before they were finally able to place him under arrest. Though Tamara remains in critical condition and has so far been unable to speak with investigators at the time of this recording, police say that they believe they have pieced together the details of what happened. They allege that Tamara and Gunnarsson got into some kind of argument on the morning of May 10th, one that ended with Gunnarsson stabbing Tamara before dousing her and her home in gasoline and setting the place on fire. Gunnarsson also sustained burns from the attack, though has since been released from hospital and remains in police custody. He has been charged with attempted first-degree murder and first-degree arson. A Florida vacation reportedly came to an abrupt end for 2 Missouri women last week when they got into a fist fight inside of a home and had to be separated by police, a fight that was apparently triggered by a disagreement over Disney World tickets. The whole thing started at around 11:20 a.m. on May 6th when police in the city of Wildwood were called to an address on the 5900 block of Roundel Way. They arrived to find 2 women, later identified as 31-year-old Catherine Northrup and 28-year-old Gina Danforth, who were in the middle of a violent altercation. The women were apparently going at it so hard that officers had to physically separate them, even after which Northrup continued to be belligerent. Danforth was hardly blameless herself, though. She quickly admitted to hitting the 31-year-old, who had scratches on her neck, elbow, and stomach. Apparently, there were several people present who witnessed the fight. However, according to police, none of them were reliable. Instead, after getting everyone's statements, they had to kind of piece together their own theory as to what had happened. The exact circumstances of the altercation still aren't clear, though it appears that the problems between Northrup and Danforth began with an argument over tickets to Disney World and a golf cart. Northrup further claimed that Danforth got in her face and started spitting, and that she had initially tried to remove herself from the situation, but was grabbed by her hair and pinned down. Both women were subsequently taken to a local hospital, Northrup so that she could be treated for injuries, and Danforth because she said she wasn't feeling well. Afterwards, they were both arrested and charged with battery and have since been released after posting a $1,000 bond. In case you're wondering, it's unclear if either woman got to go to Disney. Authorities in the city of St. Petersburg, Florida, say that a local man is facing charges in connection with an equally bizarre and revolting crime this week after he allegedly splattered his brother with the contents of his adult diaper during the middle of an argument. The situation began just before 2 a.m. on May 14th, when St. Petersburg police were called to a residence on the 5500 block of 22nd Avenue North with reports of a domestic incident. They arrived to find a strange and stomach-churning scene. On the porch of the home were the remnants of a soiled adult diaper. The contents of that diaper appeared to be strewn about and were partially on the shirt of one of the residents there. The man with the dirty t-shirt explained that a short time earlier he had gotten into an argument with his 18-year-old brother, Damian Caston. It's unclear exactly what this argument was about, but it quickly escalated. Though Caston is reportedly paralyzed from the waist down, that didn't stop him from wreaking havoc. Using his arms to move around, the 18-year-old allegedly began damaging walls inside the house, after which he started throwing things at his brother and another person who was there. Deciding that things were spiraling out of control, the brother and the other witness had picked Caston up at some point and had carried him outside to prevent him from doing further damage. That's when the 18-year-old apparently resorted to hurling the only thing he had left. You might say that he was casting diapers. Anyway, the soiled diaper apparently hit the brother in the chest, leading to the gross situation that police observed when they arrived. Caston was arrested at the scene and has now been charged with domestic battery. He was also ordered to have no contact with his brother. Authorities in Putnam County, Tennessee say that a local couple are dead this week after they allegedly tried to bring a large haul of illegal drugs to their home from Mexico, but were caught during transit in Texas, leading to a dramatic shootout with police. According to reports, the whole thing started recently when police in Putnam County received tips that husband and wife, 60-year-old Edward and 51-year-old Elizabeth Stevenson, were involved in drug trafficking. In order to investigate this, police set up a number of undercover drug buys, during which they were apparently able to confirm the couple's illegal activities. Using this information, authorities obtained a search warrant for the couple's home in Cookeville, which was executed on May 9th. Inside the house, officers found nearly a pound of methamphetamine, as well as fentanyl, multiple firearms, body armor, and ammunition. The Stevensons were not home during the search, though at some point while at the property, police reportedly discovered where they were. Evidence at the scene suggested that they had traveled to Mexico to meet with cartel members and would be returning with another shipment of drugs through Texas. This information was passed along to the relevant authorities, who managed to locate the Stevensons in Donley County. At the time, they were driving a semi-truck and were on Texas State Route 70 heading towards Interstate 40. When police attempted to conduct a traffic stop, the couple reportedly refused to pull over, prompting a chase. The pursuit lasted for a short time, until authorities used spike strips to bring their truck to a stop. Almost immediately afterwards, Edward and Elizabeth allegedly jumped from the vehicle and opened fire on officers. Both of them were killed in the resulting shootout. Apparently, they had made several statements prior to this suggesting that they planned to die fighting law enforcement if they were ever caught. After the deadly encounter, the couple's semi-truck was searched, revealing 64 pounds of a substance suspected to be cocaine. The drugs have an estimated value of $3.4 million, and it's believed that the Stevensons were planning to mix them with fentanyl before selling them off to individuals in their area. Following the incident, Putnam County Sheriff Eddie Ferris thanked members of the community for tipping them off about the Stevensons' activities. Despite how the situation unfolded, he went on to say that because the drugs never made it to the streets, it most likely saved lives in the end. Authorities in Clayton County, Georgia released a tragic update in the case of a missing young mother this week, announcing that after more than a month her remains had been located and that her live-in boyfriend, as well as several members of his family, had been charged in connection with her murder. The disturbing situation began on April 1st, when concerned family members of 23-year-old Brianna Winston called Clayton County Police to report her missing. The family members said that they had learned Brianna had stopped showing up to work on March 17th, and that they hadn't been able to get in contact with her. When they went to her apartment in College Park to check up on her, they made an incredibly unsettling discovery. The place had been entirely cleaned out, and it smelled heavily of bleach. After launching an investigation, police quickly turned their attention to Brianna's live-in boyfriend, Michael Edwards, who is also the father of her young child. They especially became interested in Edwards after learning that he had gotten married to another woman named Brianna Phillips Edwards back in January and had reportedly been keeping this a secret from the missing 23-year-old. Michael Edwards was arrested on April 8th on an unrelated aggravated stalking charge, though at this point, investigators still had no hard evidence linking him to Brianna's disappearance. However, that eventually changed when they began speaking with a friend of his from Tennessee who agreed to give authorities information in exchange for immunity. The friend, who has not been identified, proceeded to tell detectives that Edwards had choked Brianna to death inside of her apartment back on March 17th, after she learned about his secret marriage and decided to confront him. After the killing, Edwards stuffed Brianna's body in a suitcase, then borrowed his wife's car and drove it roughly 430 miles to his home in Lauderdale County, Tennessee. Once there, the friend said that he and Edwards spent hours burning the 23-year-old's remains in a barrel before discarding what was left in two separate locations, a roadside and a local cemetery. On top of this confession from his friend, investigators say that Edwards implicated himself after his arrest on the stalking charge. Once in jail, he allegedly made a series of incriminating phone calls to his wife, Phillips Edwards, asking her to burn a pair of shoes, gloves, and other items allegedly used in the disposal of Brianna's body. Phillips Edwards, in turn, reportedly enlisted the help of her husband's 18-year-old brother, Kalen Wright, and his mother, Ebony Anderson. This week, all four of the suspects were charged in connection with the case. Edwards was charged with aggravated assault, malice murder, felony murder, and tampering with evidence. Phillips Edwards was charged with conspiracy to commit a crime and party to commission of a crime. And Wright and Anderson have been charged with conspiracy to tamper with evidence. Speaking about the case this week, Clayton County Police Lieutenant Ashanti Marbury said in part, quote, "It turned into a family affair. He definitely looped everyone into this crime." Brianna's family, meanwhile, say that they are heartbroken but are happy to finally have some answers after weeks of sleepless nights. The 23-year-old leaves behind a 4-year-old child. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.